In the quiet of an airport terminal, where the usual hum of travel was replaced by a heavy, unspoken grief, a soldier walked. His uniform was immaculate, his steps slow and deliberate. He was escorting a flag-draped coffin, each footfall an echo of sacrifice, of duty, and of a promise made in a land far from home. As he moved, the scattered conversations of passengers faded. People stopped, their eyes drawn to the solemn procession. They sensed they were witnessing something profound, something sacred, passing beside them. Airline staff watched on, their usual procedural confidence suddenly feeling hollow and painfully inadequate. That's when a supervisor approached, a clipboard trembling slightly in her hand. Her voice was rehearsed, but the words felt entirely out of place. She started talking about policies, about tickets, security clearance, and the potential for delays. She was reciting rules that were written without a thought for moments like this. The escort paused. His hand rested gently on the flag, his eyes steady and unwavering. He explained, calmly but firmly, that this soldier had to board the plane first. It was not a request. It was not open for negotiation. The supervisor, however, insisted. She cited company policy again, her voice gaining a nervous edge as she mentioned security limitations. A low whisper rippled through the terminal. Phones were lifted, not to record a spectacle, but to document a moment of disbelief. An elderly man, a veteran, slowly removed his cap and stood in silent solidarity. A mother pulled her child close, tears welling in her eyes without her fully understanding why. The escort's voice remained firm, respectful, but as unbreakable as tempered steel. He spoke of honor. He spoke of fallen brothers, and of promises that could never be abandoned. The supervisor hesitated, the situation slipping rapidly beyond the control of her manual. Just then, a pilot stepped forward. He had been listening, his eyes locked on the flag. He didn't need a policy manual to understand what was happening. He nodded once, a simple gesture that carried the weight of absolute authority. He ordered the gate cleared. Boarding was to be halted immediately. A collective gasp went through the crowd as the chain of command shifted right there, in real time. The supervisor offered a soft protest, but the pilot's conviction was stronger than any corporate fear. Airport security officers approached, but then stopped, sensing they were witnessing a moment that would become history. One by one, passengers rose to their feet. A deep, profound silence fell over the terminal, heavier than any announcement, more powerful than the rumble of luggage carts. The escort resumed his slow walk, shoulders squared, his mission undeterred. The coffin passed through the gate, led by dignity itself. Airline employees stood frozen. Some offered a salute, others quietly wiped away tears. The pilot rendered a sharp, crisp salute, his jaw tight, his eyes shining with respect. Boarding only resumed after the fallen soldier was secured on board. There were no complaints about the delay, no angry words, no questions asked. Something sacred had just overridden the everyday inconveniences of travel. Later, the supervisor approached the escort and quietly apologized, her words feeling small in the face of what had transpired. He simply nodded, accepting her apology without seeking victory or praise. He took his seat beside the coffin, a vigilant, unwavering guardian. When turbulence shook the plane, his hand never left the flag. Passengers watched him, and in his quiet strength, they began to understand the true meaning of sacrifice. A teenager leaned over and whispered to his mother, asking who the soldier in the coffin was. "Someone," she replied softly, "who gave everything." Upon landing, the captain's voice came over the intercom. He made a rare announcement, asking everyone to please remain seated to honor their fallen hero. There was no applause, just a deep, reverent silence. The escort stood first, signaling the moment had come. On the tarmac, the ground crew waited in perfect formation, their hands trembling slightly. The coffin was unloaded with a level of care that goes far beyond standard procedure. And as if on cue, a light rain began to fall, as though the sky itself understood loss. The escort held his salute longer than regulations require, a final, personal tribute. The story spread like wildfire online. Millions witnessed the confrontation, and comments poured in, praising honor over bureaucracy. Veterans shared their own stories of similar battles, fought for respect. The airline issued a carefully worded, somewhat hollow statement. But the actions of the pilot and the passengers had already spoken volumes. The pilot received countless messages thanking him for his courage. The escort, when asked for interviews, declined. The story, he said, wasn't his. It belonged to the fallen, always. At the funeral, rows of uniforms stretched to the horizon. The escort stood once more, a silent guardian, until the very end. He watched as the flag was folded with meticulous precision by trembling hands and presented to a grieving family. He whispered his condolences, words he had practiced but which never got any easier to say. As the mournful notes of a bugle hung in the air, salutes rose in unison, a final promise fulfilled. That evening, the airline supervisor watched the news broadcast alone. She finally understood that rules are meant to serve people, not to erase their humanity. No training manual could ever prepare someone for a moment like that. The passengers on that flight would never forget what they witnessed, and children who were there learned a lesson about respect that no textbook could ever teach. The escort returned to his duties, another mission complete. He polished his boots, preparing for the next time he would be called, because somewhere, another family was about to receive devastating news, and the system would be tested again. But this time, people remembered what truly mattered. A single person's stand had shifted countless perspectives. Honor proved stronger than policy, because courage intervened. The fallen soldier reached home with his dignity intact. The escort kept his promise, as he always did. And while the airport returned to its usual noise and rushing crowds, something invisible had changed within those walls. A lesson had been learned that humanity must always outrank procedure, because some lines should never, ever be crossed. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more content that honors those who serve.